is for someone who might be considering getting locks or somebody who might be newer to their lock journey. In the past week, I've had so many conversations with people that I've seen or people that I know about locks, and it's been great because they've been asking questions. How do I care for locks? How many times do you wash your locks? Are they heavy? But thank you so much for watching today. Consider subscribing if you're interested in topics related to faith and locks. Please be informed that this is my experience. Everybody has a different experience. Your journey is going to be unique to you, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. So let's get started. How do you determine your lock size? So one of the questions that come to mind before somebody starts their lock journey, and a question that a loctician may ask you, is what size do you want your locks to be? The first thing you want to ask yourself before you consider lock size is, what do you want your locks to look like? Do you want to be able to style your locks differently? Smaller locks, you're going to be able to do a lot of different things with them. They're going to mimic your natural strands, versus the larger locks. If you have like 6 locks or 5 locks, you're going to have less options as far as styling goes. So you really want to think about what look are you going for and what do you hope to do with your locks moving forward. So after you've determined what look you're going for, I would really recommend just looking online, looking at different sizes that exist, and don't pay attention to what they call the sizes. Somebody recently thought that I had sister locks, but I clearly don't have sister locks. The smallest size that I've seen so far are the sister locks, which are extremely tiny, and those are maintained with a particular method. It's still an interlocking method, but unique to the sister lock product, or I would say the sister lock, it's been trademarked. And then there are micro locks, and then there's something in between micro locks and traditional sized, and there are larger locks, and I think they're free-formed, which you just let your hair grow and it takes whatever form it may take. I would say that for people who like to change up their hair and try different things, smaller locks are probably going to be a good fit because you can just do so much. You can braid over them. If you want to have extensions in your hair, you can add them to the smaller locks. I don't recommend it. After you've identified the appearance you want, how you want to style your hair, then you want to think about manageability. So with your smaller locks, depending on if you're going to self-maintain or have somebody else maintain your locks, either way, it is going to be more time than if you have larger locks. So the smaller the locks are, the more your retwist or retightening sessions are going to be, and the more you'll be spending if you're going to be having someone else manage. Smaller locks tend to marry, which means that the roots will grow together if you wait too long before retightening your locks. So with larger locks, you might be able to get away with going a little bit longer without retightening your hair or retwisting your hair. With the smaller locks, you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping a consistent schedule just to avoid the merging. I've also seen that smaller locks, they tend to bunch a little bit more. Bunching is basically when the hair, how can I say this? You get like little balls across the strand of the hair. The hair kind of tangles within itself, versus larger locks, which you might not see that issue as much. Maintenance is going to be more or less the same. The really big difference is going to be the time that it's going to take. Something else I would consider is your lifestyle. I would say that if you live an active lifestyle and your hair is getting wet quite often in the beginning, if you have smaller locks, depending on the method you start your locks with, you might end up with unraveling, which is a pain, but it's not the end of the world. The next thing you want to consider is how you want to start your locks. There are different methods that you can use. You can use a comb coil method, which is where gel is used and you twist the hair into a coil and you leave the coils in the hair until the hair locks. The nice thing about that is with the comb coil method is it supports the locking process. So when our hair locks, it locks from the inside and works its way out. And I find that the comb coils just tend to be a little bit better with supporting that process. You can use braid locks, which is where you start your hair with braiding it. Some people like this because they are guaranteed that their hair is not going to unravel because braids tend to stay in your hair. The only thing with this method is the pattern might take a while to fade out of the hair. So for some time, your hair will still look like you have braids in your hair and it's going to take a while for that pattern to fade away. Then there are 2-strand twists, which is what I started my locks with. And that's similar to the the 3-strand, the braid method, where you might have the pattern for some time. Some people don't like the 2-strand twist method because it can unravel, but some people like it because it looks like a style for some time. So it might just look like you have your hair in 2-strand twists. Then I mentioned the free form, where you just kind of let your hair do what it wants. Oh, there's interlocking also, which is very similar to the sister lock method, where a person will use a needle to interlock the hair, which is lock it within itself from the tip of the strand to the base of the strand. So method really has to do with depending on who's going to be maintaining your hair, and also if your hair is prone to unraveling or not, and if you want to use product in your hair or not. So if you start with a 2-strand twist or braid method, you don't have to use product in your hair, but with the comb coil, you're going to want to use product in your hair to keep your hair in the coils. So as far as starting off the locks, we've talked about why you would choose one size over another. We've also talked about the method that you could start your locks with, and then next goes maintenance. When I started my lock journey, I had no idea how to take care of locks. I was basically winging it. So the thing to know about locks is less is more. They don't require much, but they do require us to know what we're doing to our hair. Hydration is going to be key with your locks. When we hear about maintenance, how do I maintain my locks? You're going to want to make sure that you're keeping your hair hydrated as much as possible. Ways that you can hydrate your hair could be with aloe vera juice, could be with rose water, could be with plain water. I like to avoid products with a lot of ingredients within them, especially products that contain alcohol in them, because they tend to be drying to the hair. You want to make sure that you're giving your hair an opportunity to have moisture. Now, along with the moisture, you want to make sure you're sealing in the moisture. I wouldn't say this is true for everyone, because some people just get away with misting their hair. They're able to get that hydration that stays with just a rose water or an aloe vera water. I will say, if you're going to go the sister lock route or the micro lock route, it's recommended that you use the least amount of product possible. I believe that there are some products tailored to sister locks, but if you ask me my opinion, I feel like all locks are the same. I personally like to keep my locks build-up free and not filled with a bunch of different heavy products. So I like to maintain with just aloe and avocado hair oil. I use natural plant-based hair oils because I know that there's not going to be excessive buildup, and I like to clarify my hair with a clarifying shampoo. As far as washing goes, when you start your lock journey, you're going to want to make sure that you are not washing your hair frequently, because you want to give your hair time to tangle and lock. The locking process is different for everyone, so don't let anybody fool you and tell you that in 6 months, in 8 months, your hair will be locked. In 1 year, your hair will be locked. Everyone's hair is different. When you start out, you might notice that your hair locks in about 3 months, and also the technique that you start your locks with could impact the way your hair locks as well, and how long it's taking for it to lock. So your journey is going to be unique. We use certain markers to know when you should expect certain things, like budding, like when you see the frizz, that's telling you that something is happening. But I wouldn't be so stuck on numbers. And I think that's a mistake I made on my own journey, where I was looking for, okay, in 6 months, my hair should be here. In 9 months, my hair should be here. In 1 year, my hair should be here. I feel like that robs you of your journey when you're constantly looking at numbers and where other people are. Something else to consider is your hair texture. I didn't mention this before when I talked about the thickness of your locks. Something that I didn't realize is when I started my locks, I started them with 2-strand twists, and they were very thin. My hair was extremely thin. It was twisted down, and I really thought that my locks were going to look like that, but my locks swelled up. So the size you start your locks with is not going to be the size that you end up with, because locks swell as they lock. You'll notice that when you get new growth and you retwist your locks, the new growth is usually thinner than the rest of the hair. So as you start to see how your hair is thickening up, that'll give you an idea of how big the locks are going to be, or how thick the locks are going to be. That's something to keep in mind as you select lock size. Just know that you might experience some swelling. And of course, hair texture, fine hair sometimes looks different different. Thicker hair sometimes looks different, but I would say just get on this journey, learn and see what your hair is doing, and then you'll have an idea. Something that I feel like is not publicized as much and talked about as much is as you start your lock journey, especially when you're in the starter lock phase, the first, I would say even year, you have an opportunity to change your grid size, which is the size of the parting. You have the opportunity to change the method that you're using to start out your lock. So I originally years ago started comb coils, and they just didn't work for me because the back of my hair has a looser texture and that couldn't hold the coils. The rest of my hair was locking fine, but the back was not moving at the same pace. So years later, I started with a 2-strand twist. And as I went on with the 2-strand twists, the parts where my ends would unravel, which were mainly the front because I had heat damage towards the ends of my hair, I would just braid my hair in braids towards the end of my hair just to keep the lock in place. Eventually, I knew that I was going to cut off these damaged ends, but that was just to keep the hair intact. I have tried retwisting my hair with gel, with product. I didn't like it. My hair cannot handle product. It's just too much. It's too thick. I don't like the buildup. I don't like the feel of it. So I tend to just go product free. I will interlock my hair, which is a pro of interlocking. You don't have to use any product. And for me, I feel like it's less prone to unraveling. Actually, there's not really much of an opportunity to unravel. Because I've given you the pros of interlocking, I feel like I need to talk about the cons of interlocking. If you don't do it right, you can end up with holes in your locks. You can end up damaging your locks if it's not done well. There are just a lot of things that could happen, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, with any method, you could always switch it or you could always get better with it. Something else about maintaining your locks is you want to make sure that they are clean. So as I mentioned before in the beginning, you're not going to be able to wash your hairs regularly, but it means that you should not wash. It doesn't mean that you should neglect and not wash your hair. Make sure you keep your hair clean. Clean hair and clean scalp is healthy hair and a healthy scalp. You want to use a clarifying shampoo because they tend to strip the hair of any buildup without over stripping your hair. You just want to make sure you're paying attention to the ingredients that are in your shampoos. I can go into this in a whole different video about ingredients to look out for, but when you start off with washing your hair, if you have sister locks or really tiny locks, there's what's called the braid and band method where people will braid their hair in sections and wash their hair that way. Otherwise, some people will use like some type of net bonnet and keep their hair in it, like those netted ones, and just focus on washing the scalp. Really, the main focus is on the scalp if you're not putting product in your hair. This is why we really try to advocate for a product that doesn't have buildup. So as you're washing your hair with a clarifying shampoo, after you've got that buildup out, you want to now replenish your hair with the hydration. The reason why I'm a big advocate for a clarifying shampoo is because our locks absorb in things. I don't know, for those who might be you're further along in your lock journey, you might notice that if you go to a place that is like smoky or a place where people are cooking, your locks tend to carry those scents. But apart from that, there's just the pollution in the air, things that are moving around in the air. You'll see when you wash your hair the things that come out of it. So I typically recommend using a clarifying shampoo. You want to put an emphasis on your scalp because that's really the foundation for the rest of your hair. You want to make sure you're taking care of it. Sometimes the products that we're using are the reason why we have dandruff and buildup on our scalps. So try and keep things as clean as possible to your best ability. And of course, you know your hair best. You know what your hair can handle. I've seen people putting hair grease in the hair. If your hair can handle hair grease, go ahead and use it. Do what's best for you. On this channel, I just provide options and things that I've learned along the journey. They can be taken and they cannot be taken. And the sun is coming out. Okay, I don't think that should distract us, but I think we can keep going with this. So as far as washing your hair, I would say maybe once a month. Just wash your hair and see what it can handle. Watch and see if it's unraveling, but you want to make sure you have a frequent washing schedule. I get a lot of questions about conditioners, and quite honestly, originally in the starting lock phase, I didn't use any conditioners in my hair. I have considered using conditioners in my hair, but because my hair does retain moisture with the hydration and seal method that I use right now. I don't use conditioners, but I know people who have locks that put conditioners in their hair, especially if you've colored your hair. You might need to replenish and add back to, the moisture that way. The biggest thing is we don't want excessive buildup in our locks. Now, as your locks begin to mature, there are different things that you can do to detox them, to release any buildup or any product that hasn't been removed through washing. And this can be like an apple cider vinegar detox. You can lay in a tub or some apple cider vinegar, and I think people even do baking soda. Some people have spritzed their hair with the apple cider vinegar, but the biggest thing to avoid the buildup, I would say, is pay attention to those products and also make sure that you are regularly washing your hair and your scalp. A pro tip, to wash your hair effectively, I usually put the shampoo on my scalp for the first round. I use the pads of my fingers to scrub my scalp around. I do round 1, I come back and I do round 2 again on my scalp until I feel like my scalp is clean. Then the third round through is when I'll wash the rest of my hair. Now, as my locks have gotten more mature, sometimes I'll have to actually rub my locks to be able to get any buildup or anything extra that's out. But I don't really have to worry about too much buildup because there's not much that's going in my hair. I personally don't use waxes or edge controls on my hair. You may do that. I would recommend, if you're going to use an edge control at the end of the night, I would just wipe it off and really make sure. I would use witch hazel or something just to remove it, to make sure that it's not getting built into the base of the lock. I cut my locks recently, and when I saw what was in between my locks, I was like, ooh. So our locks do hold on to things, whether it's lint, whether it's whatever. Speaking of lint, you want to make sure that you are covering your hair consistently. You can't afford to just let your hair free, because you will end up with lint in your hair. Now, we know that lint can be unavoidable for some, but you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to protect your locks, to reduce any friction, whether it's a satin pillow or a satin bonnet, just to make sure that your locks are well protected. Let's see what I have over here. Supplies. If you're going to be interlocking or retwisting your hair by yourself, you're going to need those particular tools. There's a crochet hook tool that everybody uses. There are needles for interlocking that come in different sizes. Lots of videos here on YouTube that can show you what exactly you need. For the micro locks and the sister locks, there are also specific tools that can be used to retwist them. Otherwise, if you're getting your hair maintained by somebody else, really it's going to be just your accessories, making sure you have a shampoo and something to moisturize your hair with. It's really simple as far as supplies that you need. Of course, if there are additional things that you feel like are needed on your journey, then those are additional things that are needed. But overall, this is a journey that's very hands-free. In the morning when I wake up, I don't necessarily have to style my hair unless I choose to. So every day my hair is already in its style. If you can learn to embrace yourself and your natural look and your natural hair, this is going to be such a beautiful journey. You can just get up and go, no worries. The day you choose to style your hair, you style your hair. But if it's going to take some time, I know for some of us, we're used to wearing our hair long or maybe having extensions in our hair. It can take some time to feel confident, and that's fine if that's where you are. It's a working progress. I believe all of us that have had locks have grown into the look. Some of us loved it right away. The last thing that I'm gonna say is connect to a community, whether it's in person or online. You want people that are excited about this journey. I really think that it's helped me just get more excited and be more confident in rocking my natural hair, as I always talk about, and get educated too. This is a great time to learn about your natural hair and what it needs. For so long, many of us have been told how to care for our hair. Many of us have been misinformed. Many of us have lacked education. But I believe that we're in a time where we have access to so much information. We have access to so many people's experiences, and it just makes us more knowledgeable and just better at caring for our hair. Our hair can grow. Our hair can be healthy. This journey is a beautiful one. It's one of self-awareness, self-discovery, self-confidence. I would recommend whoever is considering it to go on it. But I also recognize that locks are not for everyone. I mean, we all possibly can't be locked, even though know some of us secretly want to hope that all our friends and family members will hop on the bandwagon, but it's a beautiful journey. And if you are considering it, you could always try. And if you don't like it, you could always cut your hair, or you could always unravel them without cutting your hair and start again and do whatever you want to do with your hair. But I feel like overall locks just empower us all to have a natural lifestyle that is free from toxins, because our locks don't need that much. We don't need to be product junkies. We don't need to excessively worry about our appearance, because our hair just takes care of itself. It does its thing. So thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I'm assuming that you were interested in this video. If you have yet to subscribe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.